Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Valpo Football Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute. Brandon Vickery with you. Glad to be joined by the head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox, as we get set for this week's trip to Marist and also look back at Saturday's game against St. Thomas. And as we dive into all that, Landon, I wanted to ask you about how you approach a moment like this as a head coach? How do you balance holding everyone accountable to try to do better than you have the last handful of games versus keeping a relatively positive environment around the program? What's your approach to your message to the team right now?
I think great question. And I think consistency is the key. If you win a game, your approach needs to be the same. If you lose a game, your approach needs to be the same. But I do think, you definitely want to make sure when you're going through it, the small details, like you don't miss on them. And so as a coaching staff, being very minute and critical of, hey, this is how it needs to be done. This is what we want you to do, but do it in a way, like it doesn't have to be demeaning, degrading, like do it in a way that's still uplifting to a certain degree. Some of it's tough because you need to hear the things that you need to get better at. That's as a coach or a player. But at the same time, you want to create an environment where it's football, it's a game, and it should be fun. But if it wants to be fun, we need to do it the right way.
Turnovers, it's tough to win when you're -3 in the turnover battle. What do you have to do to clean things up in that area?
Yeah, and those are the fundamentals you're talking about, or the things that we need to fix is, in those fumbles, we have the ball in the wrong arm. You put the ball in the outside arm, so you keep it away from the defense, you protect the football. It's something that we have to be critical of as coaches to make sure they're doing it in practice, so then it carries over to the game. So the things that we're teaching in practice have to be done in practice. Consistently, and then which will carry over to the game. But some of that was self-inflicted in terms of like, we have the ability to make sure that we're doing it the right way, that it's going to lead to, much greater chance of not leading to a fumble.
Outside of Jack Colson's day, had a great touchdown catch and had by far his most productive day in a Valpo uniform. What does he bring to the table?
Consistency, that was something I talked about after the game. He's a guy that doesn't say a whole lot, but you know exactly kind of what you're going to get. And that's a huge compliment that you can give a player. If he's an all-conference guy, play at all-conference level. If you're, average player, play at an average level. And so, as long as you know what you're going to get from the player that when you put him in, that's refreshing as a coach.
Well, one of those guys is an all-conference guy playing at an all-conference level is Sam Johnson. Once again, the PFL Special Teams Player of the Week. I guess what is it that makes him so good at his craft of punting the football, and how would you maybe compare and contrast Sam to the great punters you've had in recent years, Evan Mathis and Ben Neisser?
Yeah, when you compare, I think each of them have their own kind of identity and what they do. Sam's where he is unique is he has worked his craft and he understands a lot of different kicks, how to utilize those kicks, those punts. When he first got here, I was taken back by the number of. It's very similar to a pitcher. Like he can do certain things to you, where you think it's a fastball, but it's really a changeup and. To have the ability to do that with a football is really really unique. And if you could see it in person, it's very intriguing. He actually did it on the very first punt of the day. I don't know if you're aware. We had a rugby. People are putting guys 50 yards back. That's literally where they're standing. And so he puts the end over end ball. Probably only kicks it 30 yards in the air. But knowing that guy was far enough back where it was going to be able to get the roll, and then we are going to be able to cover. And next thing you know, we have a net punt of 52 yards.
Face the Marist team this week that features a first-year head coach. First time in a long time, Marist has a first-year head coach. For fans that'll get their first look at Marist under new leadership, what do they look like on film? How would you describe the style of play you'll see on Saturday?
You're seeing them getting better every week. I know the record, doesn't maybe indicate that, but it is a new system and a system that's to me, it's takes them a little while. But there's some intricacies there. Offensively, they're a tempo team and how they get their calls in and their tempo, and so just how they're going to do it offensively. You can see they're starting to gain some momentum that way. And then defensively, physical, they're physical up front, they're with their defensive line. Um, and then very sound in the kicking game as well. But you can see them starting to play a little bit better every week, a little bit better every week. It'll be important for us to make sure that we are executing at a high level. It's about us executing at a high level, and then which will in turn make them do the same. And I think that's what the game's going to come down to. Who can execute and force the other team to make some mistakes.
As head coach of the Valpo football program, Landon Fox. It's Valpo and Marist. The game kicks off at 11 o'clock Central Time, noon Eastern in New York on Saturday. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. We'll talk to you again next week on Valpo Football Weekly, presented by Lakeshore Bone and Joint Institute.